From Pod World headquarters, this is the Carolina Insider from Learfield.
We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. Jones and Adam here with you. Adam, I have peeled Adam up off the floor in his puddle of sadness to get him here into the studio. And we will talk about the Duke game. We will then quickly move on. Have a great guest, Malaika Underwood, former volleyball player here at Carolina, who is now heavily involved in the NIL world. We're going to talk about that. A relevant topic. We have an 82 story time. That'll bring your spirits up. And I'm sure much more. Adam, what's up?
The weather on Monday matched the outlook I had after Saturday night. A little cloudy, a little rainy.
A little gray, a little depressing. Hey, we're brought to you by StubHub. Easiest way to experience every Tar Heel game. Check the virtual view, score your seats, get your tickets delivered instantly. StubHub, official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the Tar Heels. StubHub, be there. Adam, it was very, very bad on Saturday. Duke jumped out on top, never looked back. And there were two things that I left the game thinking, Adam. Number one, the Blue Devils are very, very good. They are much better than the Tar Heels this season and played that way. That's the short-term view of this. The long-term view of this is that the Tar Heels need to figure out how they can get back in the mix to compete at the highest level of college basketball. And that is not an easy thing to do. There are lots of variables now that were never variables before. I think college basketball is totally different than it was. We've said this not just 20 years ago, not just 10 years ago, from 3-4 years ago. And the Tar Heels have to figure out how they can best fit into the new landscape of college basketball and compete at the level which is the level they're accustomed to competing, which is for Final Fours and national championships. This one game was this one game. Duke is better than the Tar Heels. They played really well. Carolina did not play very well. That is what it is. To me, it was the larger picture that was more concerning to me.
I'm surprised at the number of people who have pushed back on the talent discrepancy idea with things like, well, look how many 4- and 5-star guys Carolina has. The Tar Heels I honestly don't know how many 4- and 5-star guys Carolina has, but I know that when I looked out on the court on Saturday, I saw numerous people who are going to get paid to play basketball in the NBA, and most of them were on the Duke side. And that has nothing to do with star ratings. I mean, just the physical characteristics of the players who were on the court was noticeably different. And I thought Hubert Davis highlighted it right after the game with you that Carolina had the physical ability to take either A.J. Griffin or Paolo Banchero out of the game, but they only had one player with that physical ability. And unfortunately, there were two of them. And as Hubert Davis said, you can't split up Leaky Black. And so when he went to guard Paolo Banchero, A.J. Griffin went off and scored 27 points. And there would have been a time that somebody scoring 27 points in their first Duke-Carolina game would have been very noteworthy, and you would have been very concerned about the next few years. Like, oh, that guy's only going to get better. 2 years from now, I probably won't remember A.J. Griffin. And that's just what Carolina.
Well, you're only going to see him one more time against the Tar Heels, maybe
Right.
twice.
I mean, to me, all those guys sort of blend together. The Bagleys and the Zions and the Wendell Carters and
I forgot about Wendell Carter.
this year's crew. I mean, it's become very different, and it seems pretty clear that Carolina is trying to do it differently. But you have to do it differently in a competitive way. And that's the challenge that's ahead, because I don't believe that anyone can honestly believe that those two teams were evenly matched from a talent standpoint.
Talk to Hubert Davis some about the challenges of building a program versus building a team during his radio show, which is now available in your podcast feed. And he was very forthright in saying it's hard, and that he believes in building a program. And I'm not, please keep in mind, I'm not trying to say something negative about Duke here or any team that elects to do it the way they're doing. Obviously, Duke's very successful. He said that, and I believe his word was that he just wouldn't have very much fun and didn't think it was very enjoyable to try and reshuffle 12 guys every single year. And that he believed in growth and long-term and the journey of, and again, these aren't his exact words, I'm trying my best to sum it up, the journey of, being a college basketball player and all those things. To your point, there's nothing wrong with any of that. I think all of that is great. But you got to figure out a way to do it at a competitive level if you're the Tar Heels. And that's the challenge. And so, don't know that answer, but I think there's some work to do, certainly from the Carolina perspective, to achieve that goal with the level of player that you need to compete for what Carolina wants to compete for. And that's not a tournament berth. That's not a top half of the league finish. That's top 10 in the country, Final Four, national championship. That's what Carolina wants to compete for.
But I think the concerning thing that, as we look at it this year, is the teams that seem to be most competitive for those types of slots are not that different than the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of how the whole operation operates. And Carolina is very different from the Charlotte Hornets. And I agree 100% with Hubert Davis that the thing that makes it fun to me is watching players develop over 4 years and getting to know them, and remembering when Luke May is a senior, oh golly, remember when he was a freshman and nobody thought he'd ever play, and now here he is. That's fun. That's what I like about Carolina basketball. I don't know how much longer college basketball is going to be that way. The path it is headed right now is not in that direction.
No, not at all. 0%.
So something dramatic could happen to take college basketball back to that, but it's closer to being the Charlotte Hornets than it is to being that. And it's not that long after Luke May.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty close to Luke May. So it's been a stark change, and that was on display on Saturday. Now, all that being said, Carolina's got to play better with the players that it has than it did on Saturday. This is not to say, well, Carolina played up to their capabilities, but it just wasn't enough against that mighty Duke squad. Carolina played below its capabilities.
Yes. I thought Leaky Black played very well. He did I thought he did a really good job on Banchero, which is both impressive for Leaky and also concerning that Banchero had 13 points on 14 shots and Duke still won by 20. But I thought if you left that game with one player who you thought his stock is higher than going into the game from the Tar Heel perspective, it would be Leaky Black. I thought Brady Manick was fearless offensively as he normally is. He was the only Tar Heel that seemed to be able to consistently find quality looks and make tough shots. And he finished 7 of 16 in total, 6 of 10 from 3, and 21 points. Armando Bacot, who's had a terrific year, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 of 10 from the field. Felt like Mark Williams' size affected him some. And then, Adam, the backcourt of R.J. Davis and Caleb Love were 7 of 21 and had 5 turnovers, which isn't a huge number, but 7 of 21, 1 of 8 from 3. Neither one of those guys, to me, seemed like they ever got into the rhythm of the game. Neither could get Carolina into quality offense, and that was a big problem. And it was because Duke was aggressively defending them, and Carolina could not make Duke pay for pressuring that far out by getting past them and breaking down the defense. Instead, it was just heavy pressure, long shot. And Duke's really good. Again, I mean, they had held, and I don't have it in front, but it was something like Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Louisville, somebody else, all to their Notre Dame, all to their lowest three-point percentage and field goal percentage of the year. Something like that. I mean, they're a very good defensive team. So it's not just Carolina that had this trouble. The rebounding number was a surprising one to me, 40-24. That's a kick in on the glass. The second time that we've seen that happen this year, with Kentucky being the other one, where Carolina just couldn't really make any inroads rebounding-wise to make a huge effect on the game. And it was from the very start. I mean, Duke led that game 31-8, 10 minutes in. Credit to the Tar Heels that they came back and were within 11 at halftime, had an R.J. Davis three-pointer near the end of the first half that could have cut it to single digits that didn't go in. But then at the start of the second half, A.J. Griffin scores 10 straight points by himself, and that was about it. So, yes, if we're just talking about short picture, Duke is good. Duke played well. Carolina did not play well. There were many reasons why the game finished the way that it did on the court.
And we've now seen Carolina play several elite-type teams, and the outcome's been pretty much the same. So it's mid-February. I think it's fair to say Carolina is not at that level right now. It's entirely possible, but seems unlikely that, given where we are in the season, that they're going to turn into that over the next month. If you have everyone making shots, as Carolina did against NC State, they could be that type of team, but they have not done that against this type of opponent yet this year, and that's why they're sitting in the spot that they're in, which is a little bit dicey, honestly. But the Duke pressure you talked about, that's the same Duke pressure that Raymond Felton, Ty Lawson, Kendall Marshall, Marcus Page, Joel Berry relished and used to their advantage. And Carolina was not able to do that on Saturday for a combination of reasons, but it wasn't like Duke did anything that Carolina hasn't seen Duke do before.
Right.
The way Carolina handled it or didn't handle it was different.
Adam, I don't have a whole lot else on this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing about the game is kind of where it leaves Carolina for the rest of the year, which is the Tar Heels have to go to Durham, and I don't feel good about that one right now, honestly. A lot of emotion in that game, and I assume Duke will still have the same players, which is going to be a challenge. So that leaves you with the games between now and then, which Carolina needs to win a healthy number of those, if not all. The Clemson game tonight.
Huge.
That was nearly a quadrant 1 game, but Clemson fell out of quadrant 1. So now it's a quadrant 2 game, so now you do really have to win it. You have to win the game tonight. Florida State. I mean, all the games between now and the game at Cameron, Carolina really needs to win those games. You've got, as it sits right now, you've got 2 quadrant 1 games left. You've got the game at Virginia Tech, assuming they can stay in the top 75 of the net, which hopefully they can. The Tar Heels need them to. And then you've got the game at Duke, which is going to be a toughie. So these next 7 or so games before you go to Durham are very, very important for Carolina's resume.
Clemson on the road, Florida State at home, Pitt at home, at Virginia Tech, Louisville at home, at NC State, Syracuse at home. Those are the games the Tar Heels have before the season finale at Duke on March 5th.
If you close 7-1, you're making the NCAA tournament. If you close 6-2, you may need to do something in Brooklyn, and if you close 5-3, you will need to do something in Brooklyn. And that's just a product of the resume as it stands right now. Carolina's had some opportunities that they haven't taken advantage of, and so now you got to do your work at the end of the season.
Adam, Hubert Davis was very quick on Monday in a couple things that he and I did to praise the atmosphere and the crowd, and not just this game, but all season long. And it was a great crowd at game day earlier in the day on Saturday. The energy pre-tip in the building was terrific. It obviously got taken down with the way that Duke started the game, which is what you're trying to do if you're the Blue Devils, and they did it. They took the crowd out of the game with their play in the first 10 minutes of the contest.
I think everything you said is right. The crowd was ready to be a factor and just was never really able to get into it. There's been some stuff said about one chant before the game that should not have ever happened.
Yeah, that's classless.
And if you're obviously no one who listens to the Carolina Insider podcast partook in that. But if you've got a friend who did, or you were there and saw it, you need to say something to those people, because that's not how it is in the Smith Center, and that's not how it should be. Dean Smith, Roy Williams, Hubert Davis, none of them would want that to occur. I do think it's been kind of odd, the hailstorm of Dick Vitale tweets in the post-game of Carolina. Well, during the game and after the game. And they've almost got a little personal tone to them that makes you wonder who mentioned these things to him. And I guess we'll probably never know the answer to that. But certainly we like Dick Vitale in general. Great ambassador for college basketball. But the tone of some of his tweets surprises me, especially as someone who was not there. But they almost all seem to be coming from someone who was there, which is unusual, I guess.
Like, is it all right to boo Coach K? Absolutely. Is it all right that the Tar Heels didn't have a big ceremony? Yes. But there's no need for, dropping the hard F-bomb repeatedly in a chant in the Smith Center. There's just no need for it.
Directed at anyone.
Right.
That just shouldn't be part of the Smith Center game day ever. That's what is supposed to separate the Smith Center from some other places like Louisville.
Right.
Or Maryland, or some of the other places we talked about last time.
It can be a terrific, intimidating environment without that kind of stuff.
And just because you have the ability to go on Twitter and say whatever you want to these people doesn't mean you should say that to these people when you're in a group of 21,000 in public. Those are two different things, which seems to be a hard idea for some people to grasp.
That's yes.
And again, I really don't think it's anyone who listens to this, because I just don't get that feel. But Carolina's better than that, needs to be better than that consistently. And if you won't see that the rest of the season, I can't imagine. But if you do, just say, hey, Carolina's better than that. If the Tar Heels get really infuriated at
watch out, Leonard Hamilton. Watch out, Jeff Capel.
There's that guy who stands in front of Jones all the time. Let's give him a piece of our mind. There's Mike Pegues. I've been waiting for my shot at him. Now, which one is he?
Did he find that walking stick that lady dropped? Is it too early to call something the song of the summer, Adam?
There's not as many contenders for song of the winter. Could it be song of the winter?
Yeah. Song of the gray dead of winter. I dropped my walking stick. Hopefully things will get better. There's a way for them to start getting better, and that's for us to get to our interview. Malaika Underwood, former Tar Heel volleyball player. What, top 40 under 40? Is that what she was?
Yeah, Sports Business Journal.
Yeah. super pleasant, accomplished, great athlete, and in the NIL space, which, as we know, is taking over college athletics. And so we talked to her about that and a lot more. We will get to that after I remind you that there's no need, I'm going to get to this eventually, to let your outside chores or projects cause you to miss any Tar Heel game action. Whether you need to mow it, till it, or move it, let LS Tractor help make short work of it. You know the offer. A free loader with the purchase of a tractor. LSTractorUSA.com. LSTractorUSA.com. LS Tractor. Now you can do more for less. All right, let's get to our conversation with Malaika Underwood. Adam has a list. We have a story. And more after this on the Carolina Insider.
I was trying to think of the best way to encapsulate our guest today, and here's what I came up with, and she can tell me if this is a pretty good summary. She's one of the most decorated baseball players we've ever had on the podcast, who played a completely different sport at Carolina.
Right.
And is now on Sports Business Journal's 40 under 40 list of the most influential people in sports business currently. Malaika Underwood, is that pretty much you?
Adam, I need you to follow me around and introduce me at places from here on out.
Well, I'd get to go a lot of cool places, so I would like to follow you around.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Tell folks a little bit about kind of what you're doing now, and then we'll work back.
Sure. So currently I work for a company called One Team Partners, and we work on behalf of players' associations to maximize the collective value of athletes. And we're working in this moment to bring group rights to the college landscape. As many of your listeners are likely aware, the landscape in college has changed, and we think we have a model that will help drive revenue for those athletes. I'm the SVP of licensing at the company. I oversee our consumer products licensing team and also help lead the college efforts that I just described.
So, Malaika, I have a question. I've heard the term group rights a bunch, and Caroline Bubba Cunningham has talked about it a lot here at Carolina, and he has talked a lot about that just in general on the college landscape. And obviously I understand what those words mean compared to an individual doing something, but when you boil it down, what's the big difference between if Adam, for example, wanted to go out and get a big deal by himself, or if Adam and I and 5 other people wanted to do some kind of group right? What's the real big difference?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. So really you have individual rights, and that provides an athlete an opportunity to go out and do endorsements and leverage their own personal value. Group rights is a model that allows those athletes collectively to participate in various opportunities. And those opportunities can be through licensing. So jersey manufacturers, video game developers, trading card companies, they use group rights so that they can get access to a specific group of athletes. You know, in the case of professional sports, it's often all of the athletes in that particular league. In college, it's going to be a little bit different because there's different levels of collective value. There is broad scale collective value. So it's athletes at various schools in a particular sport or in multiple sports. Then you have collective value of all of the athletes at, say, Carolina. And then you have the collective value of athletes on a particular team at a school. So it'll be interesting over the next few years to see how those various groups leverage and develop their collective value. And we're really focused on that broad scale collective value that I mentioned. We think that what we do in the pro space can really help in the college space in that regard. But collective value, group rights, is complementary to individual value. If as an example, if I were to tell you that the reason an athlete, the star quarterback in the NFL, is on the cover of the Madden football game is because all of the athletes are in the game, that would be true, because without that game, there is no opportunity for that star athlete to be on the cover. So it's complementary, and EA Sport goes to the Players Association through us to get access to all of the athletes in the NFL, to include them in Madden, and then goes to individual agents or individual players if they represent themselves, and negotiates a deal for that athlete to be on the cover. And that's in the individual bucket. And then the group rights and the revenue driven and shared for the participation in the game is through group rights.
I know this is probably a difficult question to answer, because I'm assuming the hard answer is different depending on what level we're talking about, as you just described. But if I enter something in a group rights, like for example, a lot of former Carolina athletes have entered a group licensing deal for jersey sales and things like that. So if I entered that as an individual athlete, am I getting like a check every month? Am I getting how do I personally benefit from that if I as an athlete join a group rights collective?
Sure, and great question. So the revenue is shared, and depending on the product category, it might be shared a little differently. I'll take a half step back and I'll say this: through group licensing, the deal for every athlete is the same. So every athlete, whether you're the star quarterback or the right guard, is going to receive the same deal, the same royalty that everybody in that group is getting applies to each of those athletes. What could differ, take jerseys as an example, is the actual amount of cash that a particular athlete gets. Because if you apply that royalty rate for the star quarterback, who may sell more jerseys, they're going to get more. They're going to get a bigger check than maybe the right guard. And I don't mean to discriminate against those particular players, because they may be popular and sell more jerseys. But that's the difference within the jersey category. Now, something like video games or trading cards, where you cannot distinguish a particular athlete selling more than another, they will share in the revenue equally. So every athlete that participates in the college football game would receive the same amount of money. They'll be paid at some cadence, monthly, maybe not quarterly, more likely, or every 6 months, something like that. So as the company who's manufacturing or developing and producing the product makes sales, they will report royalties on those sales, and then the company managing the licensing program for the athletes will then distribute that money directly to the athletes.
First of all, you have to understand you're educating us about a topic we talk about all the time and don't really know anything about. Now, that's fairly commonplace on this podcast.
Yeah, that's every episode.
Yeah, but so you're the expert now. So this may be a dumb question. Is there a scenario where individual rights make more sense than group rights? If, for example, I'm a highly decorated field hockey player in a sport that doesn't have the mass appeal of football or basketball, is there still a place for group rights there also, or is this more of a big time sport thing?
It is not one or the other. Individual rights and group rights are complementary. And I think that all athletes should consider both. And your individual value is something that you have a lot of control over. You get to decide which companies you want to be associated with and work with. Collective or group rights is something that's driven by, again, the collective, the group of you. So if your team is having a lot of success on the field, you might have some group opportunities around a run in the tournament. You might also have some opportunities as a part of a larger group across your sport. So I think you should always look at both. Doesn't matter what sport you're in. I think there will be, we've danced around it a bit here, but there's opportunities immediately for some of the more high profile sports, football, men's and women's basketball. I think those are going to be the first places, the first sports that we see group licensing and broad scale group licensing opportunities develop. But that doesn't mean that group licensing isn't for any of the other sports or any of the other athletes.
How do you figure out the right moves to make in this space that everyone seems to agree essentially has no real rules or guidelines, and everyone's kind of developing day by day what the next thing is going to be?
I remind myself daily that we're only 6.5 months in, and that a lot has happened. There is a lot still to develop. I think there'll be a lot of things that we look back on and say, I can't believe that used to be okay. There are going to be changes. We have set a strategy again focusing on the broad scale collective value of college athletes. We think that bringing opportunities in the categories of jerseys and apparel, video games, and trading cards will be foundational to maximizing that collective value and really setting the table for group licensing. So just staying focused and again, reminding myself that this is early and there are a lot of things, people are trying a lot of things to see what sticks. 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the landscape is going to be very different. I do think we're moving in the right direction. And I know that there are a lot of concerns about certain things that have happened and the fact that there aren't a lot of regulations and policies. But I think that the opportunity for athletes in college to be able to maximize this moment in time for themselves, whether it be through individual opportunities and or group licensing opportunities, is fantastic. And it's something that, I mean, frankly, as a former college athlete, I wish I had that opportunity. And I might not have made a ton of money, but it would have been nice to be able to explore that. And now, you know, of course, with social media and opportunities to be an influencer, there's just so much out there. And I think we're moving in the right direction. And I trust that there are lots of people who care, and we will end up in a good place around this.
Okay, this may put you in a tough spot with this question, so I just go ahead. I'll lay that out there before I even ask it. So you have seen this from both sides, as you ref, a former athlete. Now you're seeing it from the business side on the other end of this. I think most people agree that this is a good thing. NIL is a good thing in total, and certainly a good thing for college athletes. I think most people agree also, though, that as you just discussed, we're not in the final form, and there's some very questionable things that are being allowed to occur right now. So if you were the czar of NIL, what couple of things would you say, you know what, guys, X, Y, and Z needs to happen to make this make a little more sense right now?
Two things come to mind right away. One is more consistency across the landscape. We have various state laws at this point. We've got different campus policies. I think consistency is important. I think it's important for the athletes. I think it's important for college campuses and athletic departments to be able to operate on a level playing field. But I will also say, I think it's important for the commercial business side of things. It is very difficult right now for potential licensees or brands that are interested in being in the space to know what to do because it is so fragmented across the landscape. So that would be the first thing. The other thing, I think we have to figure out how to better define what pay for play is. And there are things that can happen that allow for athletes to generate revenue. But I do think that we are all towing the line, collectively sort of towing the line of what is pay for play. And I don't have the answer at this point, but I do think we've got to figure those two things out and to bring us into a settled place around NIL for college athletes.
What advice would you give to student athletes right now? Like if young Malaika was in the early part of her Tar Heel career and had a chance to hear from wise veteran Malaika, what would you tell her?
I would be very cautious about entering into any deal that was exclusive, that extended beyond my college career. And I would also encourage myself to ask for help. Just ask people to read the agreements you're signing. Use your campus and family networks to help you figure out what it is exactly you're signing up to do. I think it's so early. Again, so many people are trying so many things that you just don't want to be one of those case studies that people are pointing to in a year or two and saying, don't do that. And I think operating cautiously is the best way to do it. I know a lot of schools are providing athletes with education. Take advantage of those opportunities, really try to understand it, whether that is from an individual opportunity standpoint or a group licensing standpoint. Just get more familiar with those things and how they might benefit you as an athlete. And I think if you can do that and sort of just be cautious, but at the same time, take advantage of the opportunities. They're right there. And what a great time to be an athlete right now.
We've touched on it a little bit, but you, of course, were a student athlete at Carolina. How did you end up at Carolina in the first place?
So it's tied to my baseball story. I mean, I grew up playing baseball. It was my passion. I grew up in San Diego in the 1980s and early 90s, and playing outside and playing baseball, sandlot style, was an everyday thing. And I played Little League at Choice Lake and just around the corner from where I grew up. And in my mind, that's all I cared about in terms of sports. I wanted to be the first woman in Major League Baseball. I was focused on that from the day I picked up a bat and a ball. But when I got to high school, I realized that I didn't want to be in a normal PE class for the fall and winter seasons. And I had my eye on trying out for the baseball team in the spring, but I had to fill some time. So I tried out for the volleyball team, and then I also tried out for the basketball team. And through my high school career, as I realized that my prospects in baseball were pretty limited, just because there weren't a lot of opportunities to go on to college to play baseball. And if I did that, I would have to go to a smaller school, which really wasn't the college experience that I wanted for myself. And at the same time, doors were opening through volleyball and basketball. And I started to play club for both of those sports and started to get interest from coaches. And so as that recruiting cycle started, I realized there were going to be some really significant opportunities that were going to be put in front of me. I was recruited for both volleyball and basketball at various schools. When I showed up for my official visit at Carolina, it was over a weekend, a Halloween weekend. It was beautiful. The leaves were changing, and for a California girl, the seasons and the leaves, and it was so dramatic. We saw the women's soccer team play. My coach knew I was a Carolina basketball fan by way of Michael Jordan. So he actually arranged for me to meet Dean Smith, and Dean was kind enough to spend a few minutes with me and talk about his experience on campus. And he brought out rings that Michael Jordan had given him. It was just mind blowing. And of course I had a blast on Franklin Street on Halloween night. And so I'm on the plane coming home, and I still had one recruiting trip left to Rhode Island. And I get off the plane and I tell my dad, I know where I'm going to school. I'm going to Carolina. There's no question. And I said, we could just stop this whole recruiting process. This is it. And he said to me, you need to finish out this recruiting process because you don't want to look back and have any regrets. My only regret is that I actually did go to University of Rhode Island on a recruiting trip because I froze my ass off in early November. and there's no way I was going to end up there. I mean, it was a beautiful campus and I appreciated the hospitality, but there was just no way. I mean, I had every piece of clothing that I brought from San Diego on at some football game, and I was still cold in the metal benches. I just remember sitting there thinking, there's no way I'm going to end up here. So I accepted a full scholarship to play at Carolina. The end to the story is that I showed up in August the following year for training camp, and we had testing outside. And so we're running the mile, and it is, 95 degrees with 90% humidity. And I am dying. And I'm thinking to myself, this was a trick. And Carmichael didn't have any air conditioning at the time. So Coach Segula would roll in these big fans that just blew hot air around. Like they did nothing to cool it down. And I just kept thinking like, I was duped. But I went on to really love Carolina and enjoy my experience. We had a great team. And it was just fantastic. I actually give Coach Segula a hard time now because because Carmichael is air conditioned. I think he takes it easy on the players, but that's just an old alum.
Adam, we finally took down Rhode Island for trying to take Carolina's color. Take that, Rhode Island.
Yeah, but Rhode Island's sitting there now going, hey, Malaika, those August temperatures don't look so bad now, do they?
Yeah, exactly right.
So
who's laughing now?
That's right. So as a female playing baseball, at I assume at some point you started hearing I don't even know the right word, the chatter from the crowd, people going, what's she doing here? Did that kind of stuff happen? How did that make you feel? How did you deal with it?
Yeah, being the only girl on a baseball field can be tough. And some of it isn't even blatant stuff. It's just you always feel like you have to do more to be in the same place. And that's a tough feeling. And I dealt with that on a day-to-day basis. I will say my experience on the field and with the coaches that I played for were great. I mean, I had support my entire career. And I think that it's a testament to the people and programs that I played for. That's not to say that, there wasn't some heckling from opposing teams. I certainly got hit by pitches more than my teammates. But that kind of stuff didn't bother me all that much because of the fact that I had support in my dugout and with our coaches. And so, through my time at Choice Lake Little League, through my time at La Jolla High School, just really great people who were supportive. And even now, with the USA Baseball Women's National Team, when I go home, I say home, I it's funny to say home for San Diego, but it's still, I guess everybody feels that way, the place they grew up. When I go back, I go to La Jolla and I take swings, and my old coaches will hit me ground balls and try to help me get ready for any international competition I might have for USA Baseball.
Okay, this is dumb brain question that I'm about to ask you here. So most, I'm assuming, colleges offer softball that is predominantly a female sport at the college level. Was that never something that you wanted to explore?
It never was. And for me, it's just as simple, the fact that they're two different sports. I never played softball and never had any interest. A lot of people asked or suggested that I make the switch. For me, though, I was fortunate to start to get recruited for volleyball and basketball. And it took that pressure off because most of the people in my inner circle who were even suggesting that I consider softball were doing it because they said, you could get a college scholarship if you do this. So once I started getting interest in those other sports, that pressure was lightened. But I have a lot of friends and former teammates and current teammates who played softball, and maybe not in high school even. There's a couple of USA Baseball Women's National Team players who played baseball on the boys team up until their senior year and were recruited as softball players and went on to have really solid softball careers in college. So that exists, but just for me, it wasn't something I was interested in. In the 90s, there were the Silver Bullets. I think they were around from 1995 to 99. I might be slightly off in the years, but they inspired me. They were an all women's baseball team. They were coached by Phil Necro. They barnstormed around and played. They played men's teams, men's minor league teams. I saw them come through San Diego. Eventually, coming full circle, I had the opportunity to play with a number of them on the USA Baseball Women's National Team, which was awesome. But seeing that gave me that thread of hope that, maybe I'm not going to be the first woman in Major League Baseball, but there might be something more out there. And in 2006, I did find the USA Baseball Women's National Team. They were having open tryouts that year for the World Cup in Taiwan, and I tried out, and I've been hanging on for dear life ever since. They keep inviting me back to play. So it just never was anything that I was interested in entertaining. Nothing wrong with softball. There's a great sport and fantastic athletes who play it. Just wasn't for me.
She's doing a little more than hanging on. She's played in 7 World Cups. She was being very nice. We're starting to see women filtering in to pro baseball on the coaching side and on the front office side and things like that. How far are we really from seeing a woman in Major League Baseball? Because it seems silly to say it's never going to happen. It clearly probably is, and you know better than anybody. So how close is that?
Yeah, I think we're still a ways away. And I say that because I think that we have to provide more opportunity for development for girls and women who want to play baseball before we get an athlete who has that opportunity and can perform at that level. And we have had, I will say this, we have had women play. There were 3 USA Baseball Women's National Team players who played for the Sonoma Stompers a few years ago. And there have been others throughout time who have played at the collegiate level and have played at the minor league level. So it's not that women aren't knocking at the door. I just think that the hill to climb is so difficult for those women, the things that they have to sacrifice. And that doesn't mean I am fully aware of the sacrifices that men make to play baseball, but the path for them is very clear. The path for them is to perform at a high level in high school, at the collegiate level, to get drafted, to play in the minor league system, and then to make it to Major League Baseball. But for women, it's spotty, and they've got to do just a little bit more to get to each of those thresholds. So I think if we can do a better job at the grassroots level, and then really the gap is at the high school and college level where there aren't opportunities. Because if you go to the grassroots level, you say, all right, well, whether it's in or on all girls travel ball leagues, which are growing, or on boys little league teams, there are opportunities for girls to play baseball. But then as you kind of go up that pyramid, there are fewer and fewer opportunities, and it becomes harder and harder. And if we don't fill those gaps, and many of us in the women's baseball community continue to look for solutions to fill those gaps. How do we increase the opportunities for girls to play at the high school level? What do we need to do to make baseball, women's baseball, a sport at the collegiate level, even if it's a club sport to start, which is one of the ideas is let's make this a club sport. And as it grows, it could potentially become a varsity sport, and then create a professional league for women. Now, if that means that some of those women end up in Major League Baseball, okay. But I don't know that it's everyone's aspiration to be in Major League Baseball. I think if you ask most women, they would say, we just want to play professionally. And the only professional baseball league is Major League Baseball right now. So of course you have girls who aspire to be the first woman in Major League Baseball, but really they just want to play pro baseball. I'm sure if you went back and asked basketball players before, women's basketball players before the W existed, they would have said the same thing. They want to aspire to be in the NBA, but now they have the WNBA to aspire to and make a living playing the game. So I think that's where we have to go, and those are the things we have to do if we're going to see women playing at the professional level.
As you mentioned, it's hard to define exactly where home is for somebody who's lived from coast to coast. When you think about your time at Carolina or Chapel Hill, what comes to mind? What makes it special to you?
Oh, there's so many things. My experience there, the people, my teammates, and even other people that I came to know really well on campus. There's something special just about the campus itself. It is beautiful, and I haven't been in a number of years, as many can imagine because of COVID. But I miss it. I miss the brick buildings. I miss the quad. I miss Carmichael. It's just a great place. But it is the people, and I stay in contact with a number of teammates that I played with, and it's just amazing the bond that we have, and that has continued, for so many years as we've all gone our separate ways and started careers and started families and done different things and ended up in different places, but we're still very much connected, and that is what Carolina is to me.
Texting while driving takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. And at highway speeds, that's like driving the length of a football field, but doing it with your eyes closed. Trusted Choice Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina want you to stay safe behind the wheel. There is no need to have your phone while you're driving. Let's have a hands-free NC. To learn more and find an agent near you, visit trustedchoice.com/goheels. Again, that is trustedchoice.com/goheels. I don't know if this is in your Champions Watch or not. Well, before we do that, let's just say that our Champions Watch is brought to you by UNC Health, dedicated to caring for champions of all kinds and to help keep you in the game and at your very best. See their lineup at unchealthcare.org/sports. Adam, I went to the women's game on Sunday, and by the time I walked in, a couple minutes after tip, it was 24-2. The Tar Heels were on top of Miami, and they absolutely dismantled the Hurricanes. Really impressive performance by Courtney Banghart's team, and they have big tests coming up. They have Louisville soon. When is that, Adam?
Soon.
Yeah, very soon. Louisville's very good. We have said this about the Tar Heels on the women's basketball side of things. They're not quite to that top 10 level just yet, but I think they are firmly in that 15 to 25 range right now and clearly getting better. And they were fun to watch. Kennedy Todd Williams has really become she's taken a big step forward.
Well, you love her.
Well, she's a Cardinal, Adam.
Right.
She is from Jackson. She and I roamed the same halls of Jacksonville High School.
You can tell that the toughness is in both of your DNAs.
Yes. Adam, maybe she came and listened to my graduation speech. You don't know. You never know. Maybe that was the turning point for her.
Every time she runs out onto that Carmichael court,
yeah,
she's thinking, I remember what Jones told me.
Yeah, could have been. Maybe she was out there on the Cardinal field that day, Cardinal Stadium.
When we inevitably talk to her, we got to
talk to her.
We have to ask her if she was there.
She has become which, by the way, let me just also say that there was a big group of Jacksonville Cardinals at the game. I think it may have been the women's basketball team from Jacksonville High School. I don't know that. But they all had on Jacksonville Cardinal shirts, and they all looked like they were fine young athletes. I think it may have been them. We were in the Dippin' Dots line together. By the way, I like Dippin' Dots.
No.
You don't like Dippin' Dots?
No.
I'm not saying you can't have Dippin' Dots at your house because you have to keep them at too cold of a temperature. But I like having Dippin' Dots at the game.
Don't you have a freezer?
No, you need even cold. You need like a super freezer. That's why Dippin' Dots have never taken off as the ice cream of the future in your home. It's only at events where they can be out for a short period of time because they have to be kept so cold.
I do not understand, and I think you may be the first person over the age of 8 I've ever heard express a preference for this. If I had the choice between regular ice cream and Dippin' Dots, why would I ever want Dippin' Dots?
Okay, well, Adam, let me counter your argument by saying I don't have the option of regular ice cream at the Tar Heel women's basketball game.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I'm going to go with Dippin' Dots. And they're very tasty. I like the cookies and cream version, although I could also go with the chocolate chip cookie dough version. I would not like the cotton candy. I don't like cotton candy, regular cotton candy.
No.
It's just like you've got enough molecular combination to get the sugar to hold together long enough that you can eat it.
Yeah.
So we were in the Dippin' Dots line together. I am sorry that Adam tried to take me away from praising Courtney Banghart and her team. If you don't like women's basketball, Adam, just say it. Kennedy Todd Williams has become a very good player. She has expanded her game in her second year. I know Deja Kelly's had some shooting struggles here recently, but she found her stroke from the outside in this game, hit 4 consecutive threes at one point. Alyssa Ustby, who, by the way, I saw the other day here in Pod World headquarters. It was right for the Duke game. I was here in Pod World headquarters. She was walking by, comes up, bangs on the glass outside, and goes, "Hey, you ate a ripstick?" And I was like, "I'm waiting for you." And she said, "I've got it in my dorm right now. I could go get it." But it was right for the Duke game, so it didn't feel like the right time.
Right.
But just know, Alyssa Ustby, that you and I, that needs to happen. We got a ripstick. But hey, if you need to know, just text Aaron Matson. Find out what happens when you underestimate my ability.
Look for that Christmas ornament that says Ripstick Angel.
We have got to get on buying the tiny tree. I
think we've got a few months to take care of that, Jess.
No, well, we can get it at such a discounted price. I'm sure it's $1 more expensive in February than it was in January.
They going to raise the price a lot in July of Christmas trees?
Maybe. I bet it goes up every month leading up to December.
I don't know if that's how it works.
Tabletop Christmas tree, we got to get on it. So Alyssa Ustby did her thing. It was the Tar Heels played well defensively. It was just a quality performance. So, nice win. Looking forward to seeing the Heels as they move through the rest of the year.
You can catch Carolina at home this Thursday night, a couple nights from now, against Pittsburgh. It's 90s night.
I saw that and thought two things. I thought, man, I'd like to go to 90s night. But then I thought, what is everybody going to be dressed like that will then make me sad that they're making fun of the 90s, which feels like it should only be a couple years ago.
Yeah, I don't understand. So what?
Let me tell you, we have locked up older listeners in this episode of the pod, Adam. All you youngsters with your profanity and your Snapchat, your ripsticks, we don't want that. We want back in the day where Mitch Kupchak would come to Carolina and play 4 years. And you got to know him, and he'd come eat dinner at your house every now and then. That's how it should be, Adam. Not these youngsters today and their three-pointers, and their ripsticks.
And their slam dunk shots. I like when you just got to lay it up.
I remember when it was a technical foul to dunk in the layup line, Ralph Sampson. You think about that. I don't care where your hometown is, sir.
Harrisonburg may be your home, but your home is in the penalty box if you dunk in the layup line during warm-ups. Those shenanigans are better reserved for out of the public eye. There's children watching.
Let me just tell you about that environment in Carmichael, guys, if you thought Saturday was good.
Back in Woolen Gym, they only let in A through L. And for one game, and the next game would be M through Z. That's how it should be.
Bynum Gym was known as the Tin Can.
So it's 90s night on Thursday against Pittsburgh.
This is therapeutic for me, Adam. It's actually making me feel better.
That game's at 6 o'clock, which I got to tell you, I love those 6 o'clock starts. So much better than 7 or 9.
Adam's already done at the cafeteria getting his dinner.
I could get home and get in bed at a reasonable hour.
He was waiting outside the cafeteria, tapping his foot, going, "It's 4 o'clock, guys. You said you're open at 4."
Been sitting in the parking lot since 3:48. It's been a long time since I had my lunch at 10. Then Carolina goes on the road to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, not a bad team. And then the game Jones was talking about is back here in Chapel Hill against Louisville. Big game on Thursday, February 17th. Again, at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
My preferred time. I would recommend go ahead and getting tickets for that Louisville game because I believe that will be a good crowd, as it should be.
Okay, Adam and I will take a moment to shake our fist and yell at the clouds while you listen to this ad. Adam, exciting piece of news. Jason Kyler has signed the board.
Jason Kyler in town this weekend. He was at the game sitting right next to another former pod guest, Sally Krawcheck.
Did Sally come sign the board?
No, she did not.
Well,
50%, Jones. That's what I got, 50%. But Jason Kyler was here. He was very excited to go to the Carolina Duke game, and then the game started, and that excitement wore off.
Adam, how about your list?
What's on the top of Adam's list? Brought to you by Top of the Hill, where Tar Heels come to celebrate.
We got a tweet or an email or something asking about,
Adam doesn't understand the difference between the two.
It came on the computer. What the best way is to listen to Jones and Big Grits inside the Smith Center. So if you're at the game, what's the best way to listen?
You're asking me that.
Yes.
I am 99% sure that CHL is your best option inside the Smith Center because I believe they have a delay-free broadcast that you can get in the Smith Center. So 97.9 is their FM frequency. I can double-check with the engineering arm of the Tar Heel Sports Network and confirm, but I believe that is accurate, that they have a delay-free version for you to listen to.
David Staley sent us I'm actually sure this is right, a tweet, and pointed out that Brady Manick made 6 3-pointers against Duke, and that we had speculated, and David says he agreed with us when he was listening in the car. He audibly said, "That sounds right, Jones and Adam." Yeah. That would be the individual record, as we talked about in the 5-second challenge, that would give Carolina the best chance of winning. Turns out that wasn't right.
In hindsight, probably would have been the points, I guess. Needed somebody to score.
Points would help. I still think assists would have been good because that leads to points. But it definitely was not 3-pointers.
Rebounds would have helped.
Really anything.
Defense would have helped.
Really anything at all. We mentioned, I think, that Cole Anthony is going to be in the slam dunk contest. He's also going to be in the Rising Stars game, and he was picked by team captain James Worthy for the James Worthy squad. So looking forward to watching those two Tar Heels together on All-Star Weekend. Not this weekend, but the next weekend. Preseason ACC baseball poll is out. Tar Heels projected 5th in the Coastal. That seems low to me. But the ACC is really good.
So who's really good? It's Miami good?
Miami's good. Georgia Tech's good.
Notre Dame's, I know, in the other division. They got like all their guys back, right?
Yeah, but they're in the division with Florida State and State, both of whom are good.
Yeah, ACC's good.
The ACC is good. So 5th in the Coastal probably still gets you into the NCAA tournament. But
How many teams are in the Coastal? 7?
Sure. I think that's right. I do think Carolina's got the potential to be better than that.
How about Virginia? Are they any good?
I think they're down from how we think of Virginia, but still good.
This is just like subscribing to D1Baseball.com. What about Pitt? What's Pitt do? They play baseball. They have a team.
They do, because we've had to park at their baseball field before.
That's true.
And then walk through the snow to get to the basketball arena.
Virginia Tech, they're the ones with the hammer, right? They all.
Yeah. They're the ones with the unique atmosphere. The chance at Coach K.
Yeah.
So baseball not this weekend, but next weekend. They get going.
Who do they start with?
Seton Hall. We're throwing it back.
Oh, it's like a warm blanket to snuggle up with. Tar Heels first pitch on a cold, rainy February evening against Seton Hall.
I think that could be the first step to putting the Tar Heels back where they used to be. You got to start the season with Seton Hall.
Yep. That's the recipe.
That's how you build your confidence, is taking on those Pirates. You have maybe like an extra inning game on Saturday where you get a scrappy sac fly and a key wild pitch to win the game, and then you blow them out on Sunday. Off we go to Omaha on a rocket ship. Let's see what else. Women's tennis got the win at Michigan. We mentioned them last week that was going to be big, and they're going to ITAs this weekend. And you know, when ITAs come around, it's Tar Heel women's tennis time, because they've been very good in that event. Won 5 of the last 9. So look for that this weekend. And then just the last thing, certainly sending our thoughts out to the family of Linda Woods. She was recognized with a moment of silence before the Duke game, and just a ton of. I think what's been interesting is it's not just the former players and coaches who you've heard from who have talked about how important she was in their life, although certainly you have heard that, but also just regular fans who wrote a letter to Coach Smith or stopped by the basketball office on a Tuesday in June and had an interaction with her, and they've all uniformly said that she made them feel so important and as though they were the only thing that mattered to Carolina basketball at that time. And that was her gift that she was able to display for Carolina basketball for a long time. 1977 to 2015, she worked in the office.
We heard it from Bob Ellis, who works here. Bob's been working here in different video capacities for a long time, and he talked about how he would sometimes just stop in the office and talk to Linda Woods. And two things. During that moment of silence, Hubert Davis was struggling. Like I just happened to look over at him, and he was very clearly trying to keep it together, but was having a hard time doing that. And Adam Rhoda has written 2 terrific articles this year in which Linda Woods played a central role. One was after the opening game of the season, and then one after her passing. Both of which, by the way, I would highly recommend reading. She was like a mother to Hubert Davis, who, of course, lost his mom at a young age, and I think it weighed heavily on him last week, for sure. I don't know if he showed anyone that, but I do think it weighed heavily on him. And there are a few people who are 100% good. There are very few. Linda Woods was one of those people. 100% good.
I think it might have been Phil Ford who said he had never heard anyone ever say anything bad about Linda Woods.
Yeah. Couple of things I want to get to before we get our 82 story time. We've had this DM in our sitting there in our Twitter DMs for a while. Candace Morgan, who of course we see Candace a lot when the Tar Heels head out to the western part of the country. Candace said this was, I don't even remember, a week or so ago she sent us this, I think, where she said, I know Armando Bacot's going to get a lot of awards and accolades this season, but one that he may not know about is he is my 3-year-old daughter's absolute favorite. She loves his pink shoes, which unfortunately got blown out in the game against Louisville, his headband, his hairstyles, and in her words, quote, he's the best in the whole world. So, Armando, I know you're probably down right now, Armando, but know that you've got Tar Heel fans out there pulling for you. Adam, a lot of positive words for the Jackie Manuel interview. People enjoyed Jackie. Of course you did. Why wouldn't you? How couldn't you? Always great for him to join us, and we enjoyed it. How about our 82 story time, Adam, to wrap things up?
I'm ready.
Rick Rutherford is our author today. And Rick's story starts like this. Rick is a Carolina class of 1971. He said he fell in love with Tar Heel basketball at the age of 8 when the Heels went undefeated and won the 1957 championship. Wow, Rick. That's big time.
Rick was right along with us earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
He was like, you guys are right.
Yeah. It's like, you guys are finally somebody speaking the truth.
Sometimes that K&W doesn't open right at 4 o'clock.
Rick said he had suffered through 25 seasons without another banner when the 82 season rolled around. He was a freshman in 68 when Miller, Clark, Grubar, who? Bunning and Fogler were drubbed by Luau Sindor / Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and UCLA in the finals. Rick vowed that he would be in Chapel Hill for every championship game they were in until the Tar Heels finally won one. That's like the guy who lived on his roof until the Bengals won a game that year or something. Not quite as
very similar.
Yeah, not quite as not quite as severe, but so Rick kept his vow, including the loss to Marquette in 1977, where a TV got tossed from the second-story window of a house on Rosemary Street.
I like how Rick just relates that fact.
Yeah.
There's no indication that Rick did the tossing.
Yeah. Was Rick involved in this TV toss? Unclear.
Rick just knows that it factually occurred. Draw your own conclusions.
And in 1981 against Indiana, when a Chapel Hill policeman spied me sitting on Franklin Street near the post office with a beer in my hand and my head hanging in sadness, our eyes met. The police officer simply shook his head and rolled on in his patrol car.
And that's why that warrant was never fulfilled for that 1977 television toss.
By the way, I like this little sentence that Rick gives. It's a nice little just snapshot. 77 was anger. TVs going out of windows. 81 was more just depression.
Yeah.
Sitting on the curb drinking a beer.
Well, I mean, the president had been shot, and the Tar Heels had lost to Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
It was a depressing time.
Yeah. It was like at Adam's house on Sunday of this week. Back to Rick's story. My wife Linda and I were living in Raleigh in 1982. And when the Tar Heels beat Villanova in the Eastern Regional Finals in Raleigh, the circle of life said,
Carry on.
Rick reserved 2 rooms at a motel on Highway 54 going into Chapel Hill. I'm not sure, but perhaps it was the Best Western. I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
I kind of do.
Was that the same as the University Inn? It was the Best Western University Inn, right, at one point?
By Slugs.
Right.
I think that's right.
We are so strong in the 55 to 80 demographic for this episode. Go ahead and play the ad, Jones. Geritol can cure what ails you.
Let me tell you a little story about J.R. Reed and Steve Bucknall at Slugs. All my friends on Rosemary Street were gone by then.
They'd been hit by television.
Yeah. My wife, my older brother, a 65 alum, and a friend who showed up unexpectedly from Asheville watched the game in the hotel room. What's up, rando friend?
We're at the Best Western. Come on by.
Yeah, how did that conversation go? Guys, I've stopped at a payphone on my way in from Asheville and called a room at the Best Western.
Hotel operator, put me through to room 307.
Hotel operator, where is Rick? I know he will be in Chapel Hill for every championship game.
The population of Chapel Hill is 750. Go out and find Rick and come back and put him on the line. I'll put in another quarter. I know this is going to take a while.
Dear Rick, stop. I'm coming in from Asheville for the title game. Stop. Every time Fred Brown turns it over, Adam, an angel gets his wings. Fairly quickly after Woody uttered those famous breathless words,
the Tar Heels are going to win the national championship!
We all jumped in the car and headed for Franklin Street. Rick says that he agrees with me that the 82 championship celebration was by far the most raucous. We parked at the first space we could find on Franklin Street and ran up the hill toward the center of town. By the time we reached the planetarium, the crowd was enormous. My older brother decided to watch the celebration from the stone wall. In hindsight, probably a prudent decision. The rest of us plunged right in. Blue paint was flying in all directions. Now, Adam, the blue paint must have been incredible as far as the quantity of it, because I swear, and you're shaking your head, yes. Anybody who celebrated on Franklin Street in 82, they all mentioned the paint.
Everyone must have had it.
Well, according to Rick, it says this was high-quality, oil-based paint, not the cheap acrylic kind, so it remained on the streets and on people for a long time.
Well, and we've had a story from some folks who took paint, but that was in a much later time.
Yeah.
I bet that was the cheap acrylic-based stuff.
Rick was wearing a Carolina blue corduroy jean jacket that night. Kill him, Rick! Do it, Rick! The paint spatters were all over that jacket and Rick. It hung in a place of honor in my closet for at least a decade after that glorious night.
So we don't know where it is now. I mean, if Rick would be styling if he wore that to the games now, people would like that.
Rick, I'm just going to tell you this right now. This is only for you, Rick. If you still have that jacket and you want it to live forever, just give it to us. We'll put it up here in Pod World headquarters.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, we will hang it in Pod World headquarters.
Absolutely.
Franklin Street veterans will tell you that these events are ecstasy interspersed with moments of terror as the crowd surges in multiple directions and it is easy to lose your footing. At one point, Linda, remember Rick's wife, her glasses were knocked off, and as she bent down to try and retrieve them, I screamed in panic, "Let them go, Linda! Linda, they're lost forever!"
Stay alive, Linda, no matter what happens. I will find you.
We can go on Monday and get you new glasses.
But Rick, there are no places that make eyeglasses in just an hour. It'll take weeks.
This is a terrific visual. Linda surfaced above the crowd triumphantly with her glasses back in place as Rick sighed a huge sigh of relief. Can you imagine? What do you think Linda's face looked like at that moment? I think she pointed at the glasses? I think I would have. You think she maybe gave it a fist pump and Rick gave her a fist pump? We wound up the evening riding... As you do, we wound up the evening riding on the hood of what was once a red convertible. As it made its way slowly down Franklin Street, by the time we dismounted it, it was blue and red two-tone convertible, Adam. Having fulfilled my vow, Rick has not returned to Franklin Street on a championship game night since, despite there having been 4 more of them since 1982. Is that right? 93, 05, 09, 16, and 17.
Victories. Rick's talking about victories.
Oh, he's only talking about victories.
Yeah.
Okay.
You questioning Rick?
No. Chapel Hill still holds a special place in our hearts, and we try to get there each year from our home in Wilmington for at least one game in each sport. Go Heels. Rick, that is quality stuff.
That's one of the best accounts I've ever heard of what it was like to be on Franklin Street in 1982. That had it all.
The ecstasy interspersed with moments of terror, a regular weekend at Adam's house, sounds like the perfect description of Franklin Street 82 party to me.
Well, and we've never been on Franklin Street for one of these.
No, that's right.
So, but I've always wondered what it was like, and I think that description gives me a good picture of it without having to actually be there, which I'm not sure I'd want to be. Because if my glasses fall on the ground, you rapscallions better not be stepping on them. They're prescription.
Let it be, Linda. Leave them. Stay alive.
I'll never let go, Linda.
Okay. All right. Adam, is there anything else?
Y'all know you got to feel a little better now. No.
Tar Heels and Clemson. Reminder, that is game time change. Adam sent a letter. Adam sent a letter.
Dear Commissioner Phillips, Esquire.
It was once 9 o'clock. It's now 6 o'clock tonight.
You're welcome.
Obviously, the Tar Heels need to win the game and mini games moving forward, starting with tonight against Clemson. We'll be on the air 5 o'clock for the Heels and the Tigers. Get you ready for that. And we'll be back later in the week. Second audio pod where we'll look back at Clemson, look ahead to Florida State, 5-second challenge, bunch of shenanigans, I'm sure. Video pod, I think, are we fully back this week?
Not fully back. We're 67% back.
One day we will have a full I got to tell you, it's been a tough schedule for the video pod.
That day might be in April.
Yeah.
But we'll have a social drive. We'll have an interview.
So
keep your eyes out.
Keep your eyes in your ears. Oh, by the way, we did receive a tweet from Shay Oaks asking the best place to find the video pods. They're available on YouTube through the UNC, I think it's UNC Tar Heel Athletics. I think it's the channel there on YouTube. Also, you can find them on GoHeels.com. The video portal on Go Heels is you may have to scroll down a little bit below like the main stories, but the video portal is down there. So I would suggest those two places as the best spots to find them if you're looking to find some old video pods. Just take a look at Adam and me. Who wouldn't want to do that? But for now, we will let Malaika Underwood and the RZA get us out of here on the latest edition of the Carolina Insider.
I'm Malaika Underwood. See you later, Big Grits.
When I was small, we had nothing at all. We used to eat grits for dinner.
Pound box of sugar and a stick of margarine. A hot pot of grits kept my family from starving. Steamy hot meal served less than 5 minutes. Big silver pot, boiling water, salt in it. House full of brothers and sisters, the pot's missing. Pilgrim on a box on the stove in the kitchen.
When I was small, we had nothing at all. We used to eat grits for dinner.
See you later, Big Grit.
The preceding has been a Learfield presentation of the Tar Heels Sports Network.